All right. There we go. What's our time? About 7 seconds. Oh, good. Chat working. No. Why is that not working? Ugh, that's annoying. Hang on a second. All right, now it's working. Yes, hooray. Good. All right. Hang on. You Zach. There we go. All right. Starting with the NVIDIA report. Woo! Let's go have a look. Let's get ready. All right, into our 5-minute chart. Now, that NVIDIA report was very, very well received, and it was very, very good. No doubt. Why the fuck did they announce a $25 billion buyback at 20 times sales? Stinks. That felt a bit like Jensen sensed a bonfire and decided to throw a can of petrol on the top of it. They should be issuing equity at 20 times sales to get free R&D money. They want to hold on to number one position. They can just ram it in everybody's faces by just spending billions in R&D. And you could issue equity, free R&D, cement your position forever. But no, let's do a buyback. That buyback is pure theatre. Pure theatre. There is nothing, like, it's so obvious. They had everything. They had a perfect report. Why go and throw a fucking buyback in at the top? Isn't there a better use of capital for $25 billion than buying your own stock back at 20 times sales? And then everyone, of course, goes, oh, but that shows the faith they have in the thing. They don't fucking know what's going to happen in the future. No one knows. Anyway, it just reeked of unnecessary theatre, which it is. Oh, hang on a second. What's going on here? All right, there we go. So, last night we were talking about the Nasdaq just wants to trade off NVIDIA. NVIDIA was going to have a great report. NVIDIA has had a great report. And I think I was talking about the options market was implying about a 9% move. Pretty much what we got. 9-10% at most. Pulled back to 6%. Let's have a look now. 6.7%, okay? So, you have a look on a daily. 502. So it's clear air for sure. I mean, there's no point looking back any further. It's clear air. But the thing with these reports, when they're so good, is that who's the residual buyer now that everyone's been spunked on? The reaction was euphoric. You could have imagined the cheers going up in dealing rooms around the place. It would have just been, oh my God, and everyone's really, really excited. Now, you have to watch these though, because you need an incremental buyer. You need someone to come in on the back of that and go, oh my God, now I really got to buy lots and lots and lots of it. You need to watch the whole session. Maybe it's good enough to get a whole bunch of new people in it, but given the hype, given that every word used was gushing, whisper crushing number. Whisper crushing? No, whisper crushing guidance. Fine, it's good guidance, but it really was just like it's like Nvidia just blew over everyone's face. And they were just like, yes, yes, give it to me. Give it to me, Jensen. So just be careful. You ever heard buy the cannons and sell the trumpets? You buy the market when the war starts and you sell the market when the war's over. When everyone's happy and excited, you sell, because that's as excited as everyone gets. Now, that report had the entire street watching it. Everyone is cheering on. This is the biggest name on the street. And it just covered everyone in goo when it came out. And it's great. They guys are cleaning up, right? They're making a lot of money, and good on them, right? I don't begrudge it for a second. But it's too hot. It's too hot. So, you need to watch the whole session. Now, of course, it took the NASDAQ up with it. Let's go 5 minute. Ugh. Headline. Now, of course, it took the NASDAQ with it. Aftermarket here. Oh, hang on. Yep. That's the aftermarket move there. Oh, you're going to take my cursor away from me again? Fucker. Hang on a sec. No, it's not giving me my cursor. Give me 5 minutes. Well, not even 5 minutes. 30 seconds. Work my cursor out here. Oh, there it is. Cursor's back. Hooray. All right. Okay. All right, there's the aftermarket move there. Now, here's the interesting thing about this. If you go back to a daily on the NASDAQ and you have a look at 50-day average. Let's zoom right in here. Now, if you remember back Monday last week, we rallied right up here and hit the 50-day and then faded from it. Now, think of the amount of energy that's been used here to push up into this 50-day here. So you've hit it again from underneath. So don't forget about the setup structure here. The big problem that's been in place during this formation of this top, the big problem that's been in place is the distance between this 50 and the 200. That is something that's just unheard of. This 50-day average has been ripped way too far away from the 200. Now, here's a right shoulder forming on this top. Matches the left shoulder pretty well. You're using the biggest report from the biggest name on the street with more excitement built in than I've seen in maybe ever to get to the underside of the 50-day average. So you just got to be real careful. I mean, if you were going to fade it, that's where you would fade it. I don't see how the market can back up from that, given that that's the most exciting thing that anyone's going to see this year. And all it does is get you to the bottom of the 50. Now, most stocks in the NASDAQ aren't NVIDIA. So the other problem with the index is everybody's got to keep going. Everyone's got to be amazing. It can't just be NVIDIA. So you got to draw a line somewhere. Now, given the backdrop hasn't changed, given what was forming in here as it was failing, it's not a good story. You've got an isolated piece of good news here and some good earnings. But I think there's a lot of energy being used up to get here. So I would fade it a bit. Or put it this way. If you were short in here and it was all working and now it's come rallying back, do you have to stop out of the short here? You need to watch it. Now, the reason you're not stopping out of your short here is it's just a right shoulder on a pretty standard top. That standard top has got a sloping neckline. Now, right, it's a pretty clear sloping neckline through here. Right, not great. This one back here had a sloping neckline, right? Now, when the sloping necklines go, they go. And then that sloping neckline became resistance after that. So the sloping neckline is not a good setup for a top, right? So you've got a sloping neckline, you've got a standard top. You've got your 50 ripped away from your 200. All the reasons you were looking at shorting in here are still completely valid and in place. So you don't stop out of a short here because you're just forming the right shoulder. You're forming underneath, you're coming up and hitting, well, everything I just said. Hitting the 50-day from underneath with all that energy. You don't stop out of a short here, but you got to watch it. If this doesn't play out as a right shoulder, and you start to get a lot more noise in here, if you start to get a lot more noise in here and it mucks around and starts to do this sort of stuff, you get the hell out of your short. Right? Even if it starts doing this bit here and this right shoulder starts to negate, you don't pick a fight with that. This moving average might flatten out. So you can get a scenario where this 200-day here flattens out, starts to move sort of like this, and then this one keeps coming up like this. Alright? And this thing just sort of comes in here and starts to go up like that, right? And then away she goes. So this can close not by the 50 coming down, it can close by the 200 catching up in a period of consolidation, right? So you don't be a damn fool about it, but you also don't stop out of it here. There's reasons to stay short. Now, short-term 5-minute chart. So of course it's been exciting all day while everyone's in Asian time zone. Europe a little bit of fade, and the US, what do we got? We've got an hour to go now. Small moves. It's basically up 1%. What do you want to do? Now the risk, there's a big risk on tone across the whole market yesterday. Right? It wasn't just the Nasdaq. I mean, silver did as well as the Nasdaq. Right? Boom, exploded, right? Everything's consolidating. Gold up. Aussie dollar. Now the Aussie dollar's a big fade. That's a big fade. I mean, it was begrudging. The Aussie dollar was a begrudging move yesterday. So, alright, I'll join in. Okay, mate. I'll have a go. But it wasn't... sorry, hang on. Huh, hilarious. It yeah, it was begrudging. So to see it fade here is not surprising. Not surprising at all. And I don't know if that wrecks your total. I don't know if that is a bad sign for your risk on tone across the market. Because you would want to see a general join in there from a lot of other things. Yeah, there's not... I mean, all the early tech things are obviously printing up here. But again, you know what I think about pre-market activity. It's usually the wrong way, right? So everyone's set up to be amazing. See, they're trying to drag TSM and AMD up as well. Even the first round of Nvidia's performance, they tried to drag in AMD and TSM, but they just couldn't keep up. They couldn't keep up. They weren't a pure enough hit. You know, wasn't the real good stuff. They couldn't keep up. But ultimately, TSM and AMD will get in. Hang on a sec. Subscribed. Get in the chat, bruh. Hang on. What was I saying? Even Intel will get in the space because Intel's doing GPUs now. So I mean, you know, the other guys will creep into the same architecture. They're not first movers though, but they're not making as much money and they're not trading at 20 times sales either. And 20 times sales is a hard nut to... It's hard to get that money back. Now, other things... Banks have been very quiet through all this. The banking situation with the rates where they are is exactly the same as it has been. Right. Now there's been a general air of excitement trying to get back to the top here with everything. But with the delinquency rates hitting where they are, this story is just as bad as it has been all the way through. No one's talking about it again. Everyone's still silent. No one's talking about how broke these guys are. The emergency funding window at the Fed is still being used at record rates. The general backdrop of all this is still as bad as it was. Now you could argue that we're back to the old bad news is good news argument. The market is so heavily positioned for the treasuries to come good again that it's almost like the only belief, the pervasive belief across the market. You got two. You've got the fact that Nvidia is now a black hole for money and it's the only stock that's going to make infinite money. But the other one is that rates are going to soften because your deflationary impulse is going to come through and things are so bad that they can't raise rates any further. There's just an all-pervasive belief. Now, you have a look at the 10s. Nothing's changed on a daily. These things are working up here at 420 to 430. And if you go back and you have a look at the whole run, 40 years of it, you know, your rate environment is turn of the century stuff. It's all gone. So there is no backdrop from your rate environment. Even if it settles here, that backdrop is as bad as it's looked for the last few months. Nothing is getting any better. So the failures and the bankruptcies are going to continue. In fact, there was an article today that said bankruptcies were on the up. Let's have a look. Where is it? Here we go. US corporate bankruptcies on the rise. Oh God, I don't want an iPhone case ad. Bankruptcies ticking higher. Where does this go back to? 2010. Okay, this is 2023 so far. So, year's not over yet. It's going to be a pretty strong year for bankruptcies, right? Which you would expect. The change in the rate environment is shocking. And I don't know a single business owner out there who is crowing about how much... Sorry, except for Jensen, of course. But I just don't see anyone out there crowing about the environment. Now, that's okay. The stock market doesn't have to follow the economy, right? It never does. It's always skew if, right? It always leads. But if you're going to sit here and tell me that the market should be up here at all-time highs, this far away from your moving averages, with that much going on, this is purely pricing in the fact that the Fed's going to bail them out again. And the argument behind the positioning has always been, for me, recently, that they can't. And I say this every day. It's the same. I'm not changing my tune. It's exactly the same. So this run in the market, we know it was a short squeeze. We know everyone was positioned really, really short. We know that they were short again. We know that during last week they piled into shorts again. Now, you know, in hindsight, was the week before Nvidia's report the right week to do that? Now, fortunately for us, we had got in here in the middle. We weren't selling down through here. We were riding that. And in fact, last week, if you go back and have a look, we rode this same rally into the 50-day here. So we ran into the 50-day here, and we watched this fade. But these few days in here was when the hedges were piling the shorts on. So sure, these guys are going to get squeezed into here. Do they get squeezed into the 50? Do they go? Who knows how hard they get squeezed, right? Look, now the S&P is hitting the same 50. Now, you really can't take your eyes off this. Can I just zoom in a bit further? Just to make sure it's really, really big. Right, you see this here? This is the 50-day moving average. And this is the market bouncing from a slightly oversold position into the 50-day moving average from underneath. Right? This is not a position of enormous strength. It's a very vulnerable position. Now, NASDAQ, a little bit better because it's got more exposure to Nvidia, right? Now, all this excitement to get into the bottom of this 50. It's like this is a big cap on it now, right? 50s, they're big support when you're rallying, but as soon as you change direction, they become big resistance. Right? So it's a different beast now. So, where's the next surprise? I don't think anyone was really surprised by yesterday's report. I don't think anyone was really surprised by the fact that it was whisper crushing. What a dumb thing to call it. But anyway, I'm expressing grave concern. Now, if you're going to have a look at the metals, which did really well, silver, my favourite, back above its moving averages. Oh, and look how close the 50 is to the 200-day. All right. So, you know, compare the two. 50 up here, 200-day down here. Go and have a look at silver. 50 here, 200 here. These are bunched. Right? All the moving averages are bunched together, and you know what I think about bunching moving averages. When moving averages are bunched like this, you're in for a move. So they look totally different. Even though in the last few days they moved together, totally different setup. Gold, also very close in terms of the 50 and 200. So there's nothing stretched here. All the stretch, all the overheat is in the equity market. There's nothing in the metals market. You know, even my favourite coins are... Ugh. The 10s. Look at the 10s, like the 50 crossed over the 200 and has come back. That rate's a beast. It's going to keep going. Everything's going back to the way it was. It's going back to normal. Nvidia's out of the way now. You've got to wait 3 months for another reporting. Here's the Aussie going for another leg down. Hang on. Let's get back to the 5 minute here. Yeah, see, Aussie failing like this. Aussie fading all the way back down here. This is a risk off tone here. This is not great tone for everything else. I mean, I know the Aussie's a piece of shit on it in its own right. But if the general risk on tone were around, the Aussie would still be heading up. So, fine, you can have Nvidia going well, but it's the only thing that's doing it. There's nothing else. There is nothing else. Now let's have a look at the little basket of gold stocks we're looking at yesterday. Hang on. So here we go. This is the point down here. So remember a couple of days ago, I was buying it in here and sell the gold at the same time. Let's get the gold up. The Aussie dollar gold. Here it is. Okay, so we were in here on that day, remember? We were, if you look at the cross here, we're selling the gold here. and buying the gold stocks in here, because they should be staying pretty correlated. This is Aussie dollar gold, right? And these are Australian gold mining stocks. So you can see that gold had pushed up a fair bit there, and these stocks had been sold off. And those jaws just opened up a bit too wide there. So that's come back 1 to 3 days in a row. I think that's a great place to be. I think those Aussie gold stocks are a really, really good place to be at the moment. So that's going okay. Now, these coal stocks are interesting. I haven't mentioned much about them. I've still got Yancoal. But Whitehaven today suspended their buyback. And they got whacked 5%. That was looking very nice. There was a bit of a neckline here. It was threatening to break through. It's failed completely there. Now they announced suspension of their buyback. They were doing a pretty big buyback. But they're looking for growth opportunities. Who the fuck looks for growth opportunities in a coal stock? These guys had the option to pay enormous dividends. They could have rewarded shareholders with so much cash. They could have been paying $2 dividends, these fuckers, and they were paying 30 cents. I mean, fuckers. And they paid back a lot of debt, which was good, and then they did that. But I don't think anybody who was in the shares wanted a buyback. Like, why? Anyway, I've turned my back completely on them. I've got no interest in them as a company anymore. I mean, they'll be good if coal ever fucking goes to 400 again, but you know, I think 160 to 200 is probably the right price for coal long term. So these guys will continue to make okay money, but if they're going to turn on a growth strategy now, I mean, that's just insanity. Dump it. Get out of that. If you like coal and the fact that these guys can earn, then go to Yancoal or maybe New Hope. But Whitehaven, you don't want to touch it now. New Hope looks pretty good, actually. Whitehaven can jam it. They're going to do something stupid. This is insulting, the dividends they were paying. Absolutely insulting. Yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time on that, because who cares, right? What else we got? Europe. Anything interesting there? What's Hong Kong? Oh, Hong Kong had an okay day, but probably only following everybody else. Oh god, that looks terrible. A little bit of bottoming action. You see, you've got close 50 and 200 day averages here, but look at the difference in something that's going down instead of something that's going up. I mean, spot is below the moving averages, so if spot's below the averages, your trend's intact. I mean, it's just going to keep going. There's no reason you can't keep going. Look at it. All your averages are above spot, keeping a cap pushing down on spot. And then if you go back to your metals, it's the other way around. You got spot trading above. Well, gold's probably a bit better because it's trending a bit more. There's no trend there. I'm just trying to find one that's got more of a trend. You know, that's not a trend either. But you see the point when it's spots trading. I pointed at the screen. You can't see me pointing at the fucking screen. When spots trading above the moving averages here, that's more of a trend confirmation. I think the key today is just how this right shoulder forms under the 50. I really think this is the most important thing. You could look at other stuff, but that's the most important thing. General commodities. Ugh. Well, now you've had a couple of good days for these little metals. Palladium. Oh, here's another trend to talk about. It's really weird to see this platinum and palladium just not catch a bid. I mean, they're not that interesting, really. But remember when platinum was platinum? You know, the step above gold? Amex Platinum is a bit better than gold. That was culturally what that... Platinum has been more important or more precious than gold culturally all my life. And probably most of your lives. But if you have a look at gold and platinum, if you compare platinum here to gold, look at this. Bit of correlation here. But then they swapped. Gold left platinum behind. Platinum collapsed. Catalytic converters, right? It's made in the time before catalytic converters, so it runs good on regular gas. Gold just pushed up here. Platinum went nowhere. You only get platinum out of South Africa. There's hardly any around, but no one cares. One day it'll go stupid. Palladium's a bit weird. It's a bit like lithium. Wow. Look at that. Big. No one cares. It's all about gold. Central banks don't buy it, right? Central banks only buy gold. Dr. Copper. Now, copper's really interesting. As interesting as a dull rose-coloured metal can be. But, you know, general economic... Now, here you go. NVIDIA uses a lot of copper. Like, can't we make a case for copper being the AI metal? Because every circuit board in every NVIDIA piece of hardware, there's not a shitload, but there's copper. So I don't know, maybe copper's the metal of the AI age, as everything has to go... I don't know what I'm talking about, but... I don't know. That's 18 years of nowhere. Should we just go to sleep? Or is it about to leave all this behind? Oh God, look at this. These averages could not get any closer. Wow. This is what you call zero momentum in either direction. You could buy this, you could sell it. It's probably not going to move much. But you see, eventually, when your moving averages are all close, you know, stability breeds instability. So if you're too stable for too long, you break out, right? So I wouldn't give up on copper. Oil is... I mean, there's a little bit of the inflationary impulse has fallen out of the energy market. So, I think the energy... I don't know. I mean, gas is the one that collapsed, right? European... Hang on, have a look at this. Have a look at this on the line chart. Oh, this is what... Remember European natural gas just before Ukraine thing? Everyone thought they were going to run out of natural gas. Jesus. That's completely round-tripped. So a lot of energy inflation has fallen out because of gas. Oil, similar. You know, peak inflation fears were in here when energy was really high. But now as energy's come off, service industries have pushed on. So service industries is where your inflation is now. And it's just going to do the rounds. It's just going to keep looping. You know, there's looping round and round. Inflation's going to move from one sector to another sector to another sector. And it's going to keep going. And I think everyone's waiting for the Fed to give up, which they're going to do. So let's remember the mantra. Central banks are going to give up on fighting inflation. Maybe. Depends on if their heads get put on spikes or not. Because they can't raise rates any further. But rates are going to continue to go up. Why? Because bonds are going to continue to get sold off. And the price of the bond is going to determine the rate. Not the Fed. The Fed is not determining interest rates anymore. Interest rates are determined purely by the price action in the underlying bonds. So even if the Fed does give up on inflation, even if the Fed says they don't want to raise rates anymore, you can't get too excited as an equity market investor because the actual rates that people have to pay are still going to be higher because people are going to demand more interest on their bonds to pay for the inflation that's killing their bonds. Right? I get very passionate when I say that day after day. So, as people demand higher and higher interest rates for their bonds and they get scareder and scareder about holding bonds, and the fund management industry, which is max long treasuries here waiting for the double bottom, when that doesn't happen, they start to bail. And they bail into gold. And they're already doing it. They're already doing it. So I see that as continuing. Alright. I'm going to vamp for another half hour while we wait for everything to open. Nothing's changing. Let's go back to our 5-minute charts. Okay. I wouldn't get too excited about this topping out here. Looking for a top. It's a bit too round. I mean, it's softened a bit, but it got too excited on no volume. Here's your volume down here, right? So, overnight volume. These spikes here are your day sessions, right? In between, you can see a little bit of volume here, but nothing compared to the open and the close. Obviously, everyone deals at the open, a little bit in the middle, and then the big on-close portfolios go through. So, nothing trading here. What we can have a look at is some metal volume. Now, remember yesterday, the metal volume was ridiculous. Here's your normal days in silver. That's a pretty chunky day there. And then last night has these big spikes in here. Big day yesterday. Now for 10:30 volume here, silver, 5,000 contracts for the 5-minute there at 10:30. Yesterday at 10:30. No, is it 10? What time? 11 o'clock, sorry. 22:45. Oh yeah, that was just after the market open. Around 5,000 contracts. Yesterday at the same time, about 3,000, 4,000. Day before, $22.30. Yeah, it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's solid, but there's nothing out of the ordinary at the moment. That's silver. Gold's pretty... No, it's pretty standard.
See, that's a bit too round. I'd favour that to spike down there and hold that. That's probably all bots trading metals and correlated. I mean, this is all bots, most of this. All trading the correlations. Let's go have a look at some of the big names. Nvidia, still up 6.5%. So it's pretty steady. Pretty steady. 501. I mean, a lot of the insiders were selling in the last rally. A lot of, if you go back to, in here, a lot of insiders were selling in here. Because they're like, I mean, obviously they're all billionaires, right? But, I don't think, I think there'd be plenty of them selling now. All right. Hang on, I'm just sending an email to myself. Just sending an email to myself. All right. I've sent the mail to myself. All right. Okay. Ah! Hello, ads. Oh my god. That's hilarious. I'm going to end up with like 10 subscribers before you know it. You caught me while I was sending a an email to someone, mate. That's hilarious. I've actually done most of my spiel. I'm waiting for everything to open now. So, let me get back to my headline. It's going into the quiet zone. Right into the quiet zone. There's one thing I'm going to look at now. Hang on. This gold-silver ratio is really funky. Here is something that every trader worth their salt should have a little bit of in their book. We've got a little bit of this on our pad. I am looking for, we put this on in the high 80s. This is the price of gold compared to the price of silver. And over a long, long period of time, this level here around 80 to 100 is very rich, really rich. I mean, the entire price of an ounce of silver is smaller than the amount gold moves every day. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I would be looking, I'm looking for this to come back into the mid 60s. So anytime, we've traded it in and out a little bit, but every time it hits these mid 80s, you put it on. Yeah. You put that on in the mid 80s, so you sell gold, buy silver in there, and I would leave it on here. Looking for that to hit sort of 65. I think that's a really low volatility trade. That you can get decent 20% out of that pretty easily. I mean, you've got to wear a little bit of movement here and there, but I think the market's aware of it now. 85 is a great entry point for that. I wouldn't trade out of it here. I'd just leave it because it's gonna it should be back in the 60s. So we got a little bit of that on, but still mainly in those gold stocks. I mean, if you look at, you just keep coming back to gold in any currency other than the US dollar, and it's already made enormous runs in the last 2 or 3 years. So if you've swapped out of any other currency into gold, you're just laughing. And the US dollar price is just sort of starting to get moving. And no one cares about gold mining stocks. They just don't care about them. They really don't. They only care about Nvidia. See, this is the same thing happened with the coal stocks. When we were buying them 2 years ago, no one cared. And I think, you know, we were buying them in, I remember we were buying them in around here, and we had to wear this failure here. It was pretty annoying. But this is where the entire world thought coal was just never going to be used ever again. And they were stupid, of course. People are just being stupid. Now, are the people who are buying Nvidia up now with the same gusto that these guys were selling coal down here, are they as stupid? Yeah, probably not. But I'm not sure buying the next big thing. I'm pretty certain that the market is not necessarily the place you want to go to find the next big thing. If you want to have long term, you know, if you want to have longevity, if you think coming to the market to buy the next big thing is that you just got to throw too many darts at the dartboard to get it right. It's a lot easier to come to the market and try and find when people are being stupid, because people are being stupid all the time, and you never know where they're going to be stupid. And it's usually when they're dogmatic about something, or they're too excited. And this is the problem with this AI stuff now. Is, yeah, it's interesting, it's fantastic, it's great, and there's a lot of industries that are going to benefit from it that we probably can't even imagine yet. But that's what everyone thought about the internet. I mean, there's people that are hot for Nvidia and AI now probably weren't even conscious of stock markets back when the internet. I mean, you think AI is big? How big do you think the internet was when it was born? It's fucking enormous, right? And we know how that turned out in 2000. So every time you're trying to find the next big thing, the next big thing that gets bought up in the market has always crashed. This is the other way to think about the next big thing. Everything that was the next big thing has crashed after that. I mean, yeah, then it'll go on and it'll have more cycles. Like Apple crashed at some point, and then it went on and did better and better. But every time something is the next big thing, there is a period in history not long after it where the price collapses because too many people get too excited. And like I said before, Nvidia is a great stock and they make some great stuff. But the world's just got too big an erection over it right now. And like I wouldn't naked short it. I mean, I would not advise anybody to go out and short Nvidia. You'll get your head blown off because it can go anywhere. But would I be investing in it here at 20 times sales or at 20 times sales and 40 times forward PE? I mean, fuck. You know, it's a hardware company too, don't forget. No, I wouldn't. I would not be investing in here. And if you have owned it all the way up, I would suggest... Well, I'm not going to suggest anything. I'll be wrong. But, you know, Meta made it all the way back. Look, you could have bought a lot of triple your money in these comebacks here. Crazy. Alright, what do we got? 18 minutes until the big open. Anyway, I don't wish ill on any stock, but you know, come on guys. Alright. So not everything's got the same sort of shoulder forming here inside the big names. Amazon. Yeah, they're oh God, look at this. Don't you love the way Cathie Wood built her so-called reputation? Sorry, there's no reputation there. But her message was that she was the owner of the big new things. Like, I miss runs in things all the time. I've missed the run in Nvidia. And I don't mind because I picked up the run in coal stocks. You know, you're around long enough. And I've been doing this since 1986. So my big lesson was the 1987 crash. That's where I lost all my money. That's how old I am. But you want to live through a crash when you've got not a lot invested, and you learn a lot from that. But if you're going to put yourself up as your job is to catch all the disruptors, you know, then how the hell do you miss Nvidia? If that's your job that you say you're going to, you know. I don't blame Cathie for missing coal stocks because she just outright hated them. Fair enough, right? But you can't say you're the big disruptor stable and miss that. And anyway, there she is, dead and irrelevant. Dead and irrelevant. Will never come back, as they never do. Alright, most of these tech names are just printing up with the futures. Okay, so we're going to have another run here, which is good. If you wanted to fade it, you're going to get a little bit of into the open action. Yeah, I told you not to get too excited about this top here. It's a bit too round. Very, very interesting session coming up. There's only one thing you need to worry about today. It's whether this is a right shoulder or not. That's all we got to worry about. Hang on, I'll turn my heater down. Is this or is this not a right shoulder? I'm actually not going to call it one way or the other. I think, again, in the interest of longevity, your skill here is not to say this is a right shoulder. It's not how it works. You don't make a big proclamation and then say that you're right. What you do is you identify the form and you say to yourself, this is possibly a right shoulder. I'm already short. I'm staying with it because if it is a right shoulder, it's going to fade and come back and we'll close this, come into towards this 200 a bit more. So I'm not going to say whether this, I mean, my positioning says that I think it's a right shoulder. I mean, I shouldn't be arguing with my book, right? My book should reflect my position. See, a lot of people get accused of talking their book. You have a position, so then everything you have all this confirmation bias. And trading markets is the biggest lesson, reality check for you if you've got confirmation bias. It really trains you out of it because it doesn't matter what you think. It never matters what you think. I mean, the market doesn't care what you think. So, for me to say that this is a right shoulder, well, am I talking my book? Am I just using confirmation bias? Or, I should talk my book in that I should believe the position of my book. So I do believe, for a localized short here, I do believe the market's too hot. So I do believe that this will be a right shoulder. But I'm also aware that it may not be. Now, if it's not a right shoulder, I can't then turn around and say and find another reason to be short. If you run out of ammo, you got to sort of go, well, I'm wrong at the moment. So I'd like it to be a right shoulder. I believe it will be, but check your confirmation bias at the door and be honest with what it really is. So that's why I think it's a very big session. Well, it's a big session for me because it's going to help me make a decision about what's really happening here. Now, how many days do you give it? Right, there's a question, right? How many days do you give it? Well, if it blasts through it up to here, like if this market's up another 3% tonight, fuck, that's not a right shoulder. I mean, it's just not. It's, that's going to be some sort of funky position. I mean, you come back in here. Now, this was a good top, right? Let's compare it to this one. What would you have been saying 2/3 of the way through this top here? Right? Now, this top here wasn't even as hot as this one. I mean, look at the 50-day there compared to the 200. This was just nowhere near as hot. This is hotter than that. So this is a tougher call, right? This was trending. Now the information on this top was probably down here. After you did break, then it hit the 200 from underneath a couple of times. This is probably where you started to think, ugh, this is ugly. If it fails here, and bang, sure enough. This is a totally different beast. There's no real Head and Shoulders in here. I mean, there was, in that you got to look pretty deep. You can get a bit anal about these things if you look. Now, if you put a line in there instead of candles, you'll start to see a bit more of a, I call it the ghost, like, woo, woo. The ghost. So it looks like the old ghost in the sheet, right? So you get or a sunken Head and Shoulders. So you get a head in here, and you get, I mean, I've got a story for all of these. Right, you get your head in here. You get the sort of head in here, and then you get the two shoulders over the top here. And there's your Head and Shoulders. It's there. Head and Shoulders with the sloping neckline. So, oh shit. That's, it was there. It was there. It's like it's clear. Solid. Boo. So, it's there. So, you could find that. So, the similarity here, the things that are similar are that we've got a much more clearly defined, we've got the raised head here. But you still got that sloping neckline. Right shoulder. I mean, you've got to ask yourself, if it does turn out to be Head and Shoulders, how clear was it? Fairly. Oh, sorry. The first question I was asking was how long do you give it here? You can get a sense of symmetry, really. Left and right tend to be similar. So you could even get a double in here. You could get it come back and fluff around a little bit. You sort of should give it, you maybe have to give it that much. Sort of like this. Maybe it can fluff around in here before you comes down a bit, tries to rally again till it gives it up. Or it might be a bit more, who knows? It's the future. I don't fucking know. Do not claim to be able to tell the future. So again, sloping neckline, ripped moving averages, and no breadth, right? Here's the thing Ryan mentioned today, and hello Ryan, it reminded me today, the breadth here is just nowhere. This is a one stock market. I get the feeling the entire market's hanging off Nvidia here. It's like everybody's got their whole position on anything invested in that name. So you've got very, very poor breadth. Very poor breadth. You've got all the energy in that name being used up now. I think... Oh, and here's a great... here I am saying, oh, you should just be cautious here. But here's a great headline today. What is it? Come on. There's a rocket. Here we go. Look at this. Nvidia, the time to worry is not now. Nvidia superlatives. Let's have a look at some... Oh, it's paywall. All right. I'm going to have to start paying for this so I can read these things in the chart in this. All right, let's do it. $30 a month just to read some articles. Well, you don't have to look too far into it. Yeah, exactly. If we can get it onto Barron's. Look at this. $1,100 target, up from $800. Now, a lot of analysts are going to jump out today and go, here's my chance to grab a bit of the spotlight. I'm going to get my name in print. Every single time a stock gets like this, analysts jump all over it and try to outdo each other to get the highest price target. And every single time, sometime in the future after that, it all comes crumbling down. Target price, second largest company in the world. Hardware maker. Okay. Let's not forget, it's a hardware maker. Is it possible? Let's just think about this for a fucking second, shall we? Is it possible for a hardware maker to be the biggest fucking tech company in the world? I'm gonna just come out and say fucking not a chance in hell. I think it's bordering on. Yeah, I mentioned it, but there was no one watching it when I mentioned it, so I can mention it again. If you were a hardware maker that was going to try and be the biggest company in the world, or the second biggest, wouldn't you want to spend as much money as you could on R&D rather than buying back your own stock at 20 times? Here's an interesting thought. They've just announced a buyback at levels where all the management team were selling their stock. Like, you know, it stinks. He had a great report. Now, these analysts are saying it's going to at $1,100. Oh, God, $1,100. What? It's a hardware maker. Let's just ask this question. I hadn't framed it like this until just now. I had not framed it like this until just now. Can a hardware maker, can a computer hardware maker, or you'll say, well, Apple's a computer hardware maker, it's the biggest company in the world. Touche. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Apple's a consumer-facing hardware company. More so. I don't know. I don't want to... I've got to be careful making arguments live because I can mess it up, right? Apple, hardware maker. But don't they make a whole bunch of money out of their cloud services? I mean, Nvidia's making its money out of data center product, right? Data center cards. That's what they mean by data center for Nvidia, right? The cards they sell to data centers. It's not their own data center. Alright, let's get this thing on the... Let's see how we open. 30 seconds until the bell. Ding, ding, ding. Nvidia's going into the open at up 6.6%. I think I'll just watch the futures. I don't need to watch Nvidia, I don't think. Well, I can leave the futures on here and I'll put Nvidia on the stock so we can see the price. So, Nvidia. Oh, you can't see it. There we go. So there's your futures on the chart and you can just watch Nvidia over here. 497. 496, 495. Shall I just read out the price of Nvidia as it moves? Alright. Oh, fuck it. Let's go and have a look at the big boy. Alright. Here we go. Fun times. Now, remember my premise is that this thing is excitable as it can be on the open. Now we're only 60 seconds into the open, so don't read too much into it just yet. I should have concurrent futures running with it. Futures. Oh, there's a nice little fish hook there. It's only a tiny one, but behaved well. Oops, here we go. It's fascinating. Now remember too, if the breadth is no good, then Nvidia can't save the entire Nasdaq. Now I think some of these started a bit higher. Things like Tesla started a bit higher, coming off. Apple. Facebook. There's an interesting opening for Facebook. Up here, down. Google. Microsoft, big... Oh, geez. See, everyone was real excited on the open. Fascinating, don't you think? Look at them, the volume here has gone off the chart, literally. That's what they mean by off the chart. Okay, Nasdaq futures haven't put that much through on the open in a long time. Jesus. Back here. Jesus. I'm not saying anything. Red. Red. I'll tell you something I did say today. Wouldn't copper be the AI metal? Given that every circuit board that Nvidia puts in a card has a lot of copper on it. It's basically all copper. I think we should start making a case that copper is the metal of AI. Can Nvidia. Look how many it traded on the open there. Jesus, that is just dwarfing. Oh, it's okay. I'm gonna buy it over the day. Nasdaq. Alright. Yeah, I know. That's right. Exactly. Dollar value is ridiculous. Let's go and have a... Let's just calculate... well, a million. Geez, 500 million trades on the open. $500 million trades on the open. I'm not saying a thing. Picture tells 1,000 words. Alright, so here's the breadth issue. Before the market opened, Nvidia had caused the Nasdaq futures to go up, and the Nasdaq futures had caused all the tech stocks to print up. So everything was printing green on the open. Tesla, now down 1%. Apple, down. Facebook, still up, but only 50 bips, was a lot higher. Google, tiny up, but was up significantly. Microsoft, so, you know, one stock does not a market make. Now, the fact that they printed here doesn't mean over the rest of the day they can't get back to these levels. I'm not writing that off, but they were very, very fucking hot. Where's AMD? AMD's now down on the day. Because all the same shit's still here. All the same shit's still here. And where was the tone fading all day? Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar is just a fucking, it's a risk on, risk off indicator. Crazy day, huh? Well, whatever happens, that's an enormous open. That's an enormous open. Nasdaq futures in the first 5 minutes, 32,000 contracts. Have we got that anywhere? That's never happened. My fucking God. What have we got here? That's 24. That's never happened before. So you want to talk about, I said this before, this looked like the biggest event in terms of a single name. This one reporting was like the biggest event of the year. Now here's the mathematical proof of that. You've just had value, you've just had volume in Nasdaq futures trade on the open. It's never happened. Do you get that? It's never fucking happened. Fucking fascinating. Unbelievable. Okay, so yet again, AMD and TSMC are not invited. Alright, maybe it's going to recover a bit here. It's fascinating. Alright, I'm going to hang around for a little bit. I'm not trading anything, sort of hoping my book just comes back to life here. So today I moved a little bit of, on my own personal book, I moved some Yancoal out into some of my gold stocks. I think there's reason for that. Hang on a sec. I don't want to interrupt this. I want to see what happens here. Fuck. I don't know. I don't want to do anything as proclamative when you proclaim something. I don't want to go and have a look at the right shoulder just yet. I'm trying to avoid that. Nvidia. Miners getting punished. Such as Barrick. Yeah, pretty much everything from yesterday's getting round tripped. Oh, right, yeah, I forgot to. I don't watch the BHP ADR. Alright, well, here's an interesting development. There's your NASDAQ futures. Wow. Holy shit. So let's make a 15-minute chart. Let's have a look at some volumes here. Okay, so in 15 minutes, Nvidia's traded 2.3 million shares. Is that $1 billion? Jesus. Isn't that the Aussie market's daily turnover? Isn't the Aussie market turnover $1 billion in a day? In the first 15 minutes, Nvidia trades more than a day of the Australian stock market. It's got to be the biggest opening print trade in a stock since Nvidia's last result, which was 3 million shares. Fuck me. And 15 minutes of NASDAQ futures. Here we go. Find me a NASDAQ future 15 minutes anywhere near that. Oh dear. Fucking I would say it's probably going to flirt with unchanged for a long time. I don't think it's going to... I don't know. It's a massive volume rejection. Okay, let's think about this. Let's go and have a look. Let's go and have a look at Nvidia's last report. Let's get that 15-minute back up. Right. So, the last time they did this, and it was in here, the stock traded obviously up a lot. It sort of drifted up all day. The volume was there all... Jesus. No, the volume came down to like... not much. So, 1, 2, 3... I don't know. Maybe half the daily volume? Oh, maybe a third of the daily volume traded on the open. I don't know. This is very interesting. So, a lot of excited people have bought a lot of stock. I'm really interested in these Nasdaq futures, wondering if they're going to print down on the day. Probably won't. It's one of those these days where I go to bed and then they turn around and go up 3%. All right, now let's go and compare that to our friends the metals. Hanging in there. Gold, double bottom, maybe. Again, I've got to watch out for my confirmation bias. I don't know. Well, silver, whatever you think of it, it certainly doesn't have 4 red bars attached to it. Okay, gold's about to print up on the day. Wouldn't this be fascinating if gold... Watch this. Oh my god, they're inverting. Gold's flipping to up on the day as the Nasdaq flips to down on the day. Wouldn't that be fascinating? Look at that. Everything's zeros. Jesus. Fascinating. Oh dear. This is fascinating. Like, days like this don't actually come around that often. And you've got to think about what's really going on. You got to... Like, I'd like to watch it all day. I mean, obviously I got to go to bed, but... Yeah, I got a sense the Nasdaq might only flirt with unchanged before it starts creeping back up. Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of trading left. Well, I'm not going to call the rest of the day what happens, but I think everything was lined up a little too hot. Metals are interesting, aren't they? Yeah. The yield in the 10s is coming off. Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah. I mean, it's tiny space. It's like... Could be a bit of a fish hook there in those rates. Those rates could come off. But that's the thing. If the rates come off and the bonds are better, oh God, I don't know. It's so hard. Deflationary impulse is not good for equities either, because they're selling machines, right? They sell product. Banks must be going a bit better, because the S&P's starting to outdo the Nasdaq. Is that the banks? Yeah, look at that. Citi and JP up 1% each. Look at that. Ooh. There's a little bit of interesting. Bank tech switch. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, Nvidia's a big dislocation. It can't save the whole Nasdaq index. If the bonds are going to do better and people start looking at the banks again, well... I mean, I don't know how good that story can possibly get, though. Alright. Nvidia sitting at up 2.9%. Having been up 10. Having been very excitable. Having traded an enormous amount of volume. Having spunked all over dealing floors across the entire world. Let's go have a look at KRE. I should put that in my watch list. Yeah. Hello, your greenness. What's that look like? Daily. Okay. Could be a little interesting uptrend place. Seems to have caught a little bit of a line there, hasn't it? I might add that into my little indices thing here. I'll keep it in there. Alright. Well, isn't this interesting? Everything's turned into a nothing burger. Which in itself is not nothing. That could be a bit fish hooky there. Let's have a look at a 1 minute, shall we? Oh dear. Yeah. Just go and push a little bit here. Push up a little bit here and you'll be fish hooking right up, mate. Come on. Push it up here. Get yourself up to 240. Put on 20 points real quick. Come on, you can do it. Give me 20. Come on. You can do it. Come on, mate. You got 20 seconds. Build the hook. Build it. Build it. Come on. You can do it. You can build the perfect hook here, mate. You can do it. You've only got 10 seconds. Is it going to do it? Yes. 1 second. All right, one more. Do it in this minute. There we go. And a little bit more. Come on. Come on. It's got bait too. See the dangly bait hanging off it? Come on. Fish hook with bait. My favourite type. You can do it. Come on. Oh, look at this. It's turning out to be a beauty. That's worth a paintbrush. Paintbrush. Whee! Up there like that. Let's go. Let's go. You can do it. Here we go. Oh, well. If you fail here, it's even lamer. Because you've only a tiny loop. What time we got? Midnight. Alright. It's now tomorrow. Yeah, well, there's your fish hook. Now the bar. Now we come down, straight down. Let's give 3 big bars to the downside, and then I'm going to go to bed. Come on. Play the hook out for me. Give an old man a present. Oh, come on. Oh, it's negating the fish hook. It's bullish. Alright, well, tomorrow's Jackson's Hole. We might get a little bit of Fed speak. I don't know. Alright, viewers or viewer. I have 6 hours until I have to get up to go to the dentist. No, 6.5. I gotta go to the dentist at 7:30 in the morning. Who goes to the dentist at 7:30 in the morning? So, just before I do, let's have, I agree. I'm going back to it. Here we go. I think we're getting it. We might actually be getting it, mate. Come on. Give us the fault. Come on. Give us the bloody payoff. Money shot. Oh. Come on, you know how the fishhook has to end. Has to end with the 3 big bars. Let's go. Come on. Come on. Oh God, it's frustrating. It's Come on. I need the follow through. You've got to come on. You've got to follow through down here. Oh, come on. Yes, come on. You can do it. Oh God. You can do it. Oh. Man, we're literally watching flies crawl up a wall here. Come on. Yes, thank you. 20 seconds. You can do it. You got to take out the bait. Down to here. I'll give you 1 extra bar to do it. Oh God, this is so tense. It's good TV. It's good content. Oh, there it goes. It's ruined it. It's ruined it. Could be a surprise negation of the negation. I don't know. I mean, it's sort of killed the fish hook there. And probably rallies a bit here. Up into here. Actually, what it's going to do is it's going to pick up this moving average. I'm going to call that now. It's going to pick up this moving average somewhere in here. And that's going to put a cap on it. Algos will be working off the moving averages, right? So your next piece of fun is when the price meets this moving average. See what happens there. Let's go and quickly have a look at the 5 minute. It still looks a bit dire. And the daily, let's have a look and see what's happening with our right shoulder. Okay, so thanks, dude. I'm just going to quickly have a look at this right shoulder. So at the moment, don't get too excited. It's probably going to fail and come back up while I'm asleep, but we have pulled away from the 50. So let's revisit that in the morning, hey? We'll have a look at that in the morning. One last look at our favourite stock. Okay, so it's coming better. Well, there we go. I mean, Nvidia, it's a good stock, right? Can it lift the whole market? Probably. All right. Thanks, viewers. I'm going to hit it. We'll see you all tomorrow.